question, whether it's the rotations, questionable at times, the schemes on both ends of the floor, questionable at times. He has looked like a guy who is in over his head, who doesn't necessarily look like, the right pick, the right guy for the job. And, I wonder, I'm not, coming out and saying like, fire Ime, this was a bad hire flat out, because to your point before, I think it's just too early for grand deliberations and everything. But I do wonder, there are some obvious question marks early on. How much of that to you is we got to give it more time versus I don't necessarily like what I'm seeing here?
Well, I would go back to Popovich, who came out and said this guy is ready to be a head coach. Doc Rivers, all these guys he has worked for have all come out very much in support of his abilities to become a head coach. So number one, I would listen to those guys. And I think those guys, A, know what they're talking about, and B, deserve more than about 6 or 7 games in terms of making a judgment. As you and I talked a little bit earlier, but I would say 20 to 30 games would be the time that maybe you could start taking a serious look at what the team is doing or isn't doing. As far as whether or not they have tuned him out, I mean, I think that's kind of ludicrous. They haven't had time to get to know him. How can they tune him out? They really don't know what he really wants to do yet. They don't know. They have all the new assistants. It's not as if all of Brad's assistants stayed, just the head coach come in. Yeah, I don't know half the guys they looked up there and see on there now. So I think that whole meshing of coaches and personnel takes time. And can he afford to get the time? Can he stay around the 500 mark, maybe a little better? While that probably gets them on his page, we're going to find that out. But, I think one thing that Celtics fans have to realize, and I'll probably get in trouble for this one, but, this team is not a great team. Let's be honest here. It's a good team, but it's not a great team. And there are a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference that if you look at the rosters, that they're better. One they beat last night, obviously, over a series. If the playoff series started tomorrow between Miami and Boston, Miami would be a 2-1 favorite, easy. To win that. So, I mean, you look at Miami, you look at the Nets, even without Kyrie, you look at Milwaukee, you look at just go on, and you find, well, Tibbs has got the Knicks playing really well. I don't know what's going on with Washington, but they keep winning games. Toronto is not as bad as people make them out to be. And when Siakam gets back, they may be one of the surprise teams in the East. So I just think Boston's got their hands full. And I hope fans don't get too far down the road in terms of an expectation and therefore put more pressure on not only the coach himself, but the relationship the coach may be having with players. That should stay in the locker room from now. That doesn't need to be in public. I mean, we have enough stuff to chew on without going after that. I mean, if they come back from this road trip 3-0, is everything good again? I mean, buying tickets.
If they can ever win a game at the Garden, maybe.
Yeah, well, maybe, yeah. But I don't. Again, I think this whole process is going to take time, and even if everybody's healthy, and even if everybody's on the same page. If you would tell me how do you define a success for this basketball team, I would say getting a home court advantage first round of playoffs. That would be a huge W for this team if they could get that far. I don't think they can, not because of anything against them. I just think there are better teams, better rosters that if Kyrie ever comes back in I want to say New Jersey all the time. If he ever comes back in Brooklyn, that'll be a very interesting situation. But again, eliminate them. They're gonna be a factor even if he doesn't come back. And Milwaukee is the defending champion. I mean, you get the Chicago Bulls were a better team than they were last year. Billy Donovan's doing a solid job there. They got some good players. They made some good offseason moves. So again, I think the whole East Conference is bunched up pretty good. And where the Celtics end up finishing in that time is going to tell. And is it going to be the coach who's eventually going to have them all carrying him off the court in the shoulders, or they throwing tomatoes at him as he goes to the locker room? I don't know. But we need to give this guy time. I can see from where I sit that there was a need for a disciplinarian, number one, on this team. And we need to get tougher, even still. I hope Brad is listening, because we need to get tougher. We got to get some guys who come in here who are a little bit of, I won't use the expression I want to use, but we just need some tough guys in here. Every other team I go, I see Tucker Sutton last night from Miami. He's just a tough dude. I mean, he's been hanging around the league for 10 years. Why? Because he'll just go in. He doesn't care who's in front of me, 6'5", 250 pounds, built more like a tight end than he is necessarily a basketball player. But that's the kind of guy I don't see on the Celtic roster that I would love to see in the Celtic roster. I'd also like to see Neesmith get more minutes too, right now, not 10 games, right now.